Hey guys, Gareth97 again. This time a review of the 144 scale high-grade universal sensory Schuzrum-Galluss from the Gundam Unicorn OVA series. So for colors, we mainly have a kind of grayish blue, and then we have a darker blue, kind of cerulean for the skirt armor, a bit of the feet, and some other small details. We have some here on the chest, on the back, and that's about it. Then, as usual, we have gray for the joints and a few other minor details. And then we have some lighter gray here for the hoses on the chest and also for the mines. Then moving on to the stickers. Now, most of them are stickers we could totally expect to get. We have the sleeves markings on, surprisingly, the sleeves. We have the sleeves marking here on the chest. We have symbols here on the shields. Now, the unfortunate thing about these is that sometimes markings like these are also carved into the plastic. Fortunately, it's just a blank slate here. This is just completely non-engraved. It's just normal. And unfortunately, that means that if you want to paint it, this is going to be quite difficult to paint. And secondly, you're kind of going to have to guess where to put this. It would have been cool if it was actually engraved in the shield. But moving on, we have a bunch of red ones. And this is kind of unfortunate. The smaller red ones here on the front skirts, that could kind of... well, that was kind of to be expected, but when we get to the red ones here on the feet, or when we look at the back, the red pieces here, those could have been parts, especially when you look at the toes. And also, these stickers don't really seem to fit all that well, because as you can see, there is still a nice millimeter of the feet that hasn't been covered by the sticker. And that is quite unfortunate. And if I moved it back, I would have been in trouble in the beginning. Then the bottom of the feet would have had a millimeter of bare plastic. So that is a bit unfortunate. Also, other red stickers that go onto the magnetic anchors. And then a few other stickers we're getting. We have some gray here that all goes onto the crotch thruster, I think that is. Then we have black one that goes behind the mono-eye. We have a red one for the mono-eye. Unfortunately, it doesn't really apply that well. It's acceptable because it is a rounded mono-eye, but if you're going to paint something, definitely would recommend painting that. So that's all for stickers. Most of them completely acceptable. The red ones would have been really cool if those were parts. And yeah, we also have a bunch of red ones for the mines here. So, well, I guess the mines were already effective. On to articulation. The one thing you can already see coming, the head goes a bit up and down, a bit back and forwards, side to side. Not really a lot, unless you kind of try to pull it out, and even then it's just going to disconnect from the ball joint. So if you have it like this, it's going to snap of the ball joint. So that's a bit unfortunate because this is plastic. It's not polycap material. It's not bendable. I think it would have been much better if this was kind of a mesh pipe with like very thin iron inside. Something like that. Something movable. Anything other than solid plastic, because that really hinders the movement of this thing. And when you look at screen caps of a normal Galluss, you can see the head being turned left or right with the hose kind of following along. So that is unfortunate. What is pretty good about the head is very easy to remove scalp and a movable mono-eye. That is something really cool. When I saw the shape that the back of the mono-eye was, I was getting kind of worried that it wasn't going to be movable. But it turns out they did a good job with the mono-eye. Something I wasn't expecting when I just looked at it. So really good job there. Come on, get on there. So one thing you will have to look out for, the scalp is pretty easy to remove. So even when you're just moving the head, you might accidentally remove it. But it's better to have it too easily removed than having a scalp that you almost have to break. Then moving on to the arms, they are on ball joints, and then that thing here to which they connect is on a hinge, so go forwards really far, backwards nicely. upwards on that ball joint as well, quite nicely, so you have a nice range. And upwards about that far, not hindered at all by the shield arms. We'll rotate around all the way. Elbows, unfortunately only one joint for the standard 90 degrees. Hands are on ball joints, will wiggle around, turn around, and do everything a ball joint does. Then these shields here, they are on a hinge at the back, so they will go up and down. And then they will also flap out about that far, and that is when the joints start coming apart. So you can store him flat or have him a bit more, appearing a bit more bulky, let's put it like that. Then the waist is on a ball joint. We'll weigh around all the way forwards, backwards really nicely. Then front skirts, as always, molded together but can be separated. Forwards nicely, backwards not quite as much. They have the usual swivel joint. Go out nicely. We'll rotate around all the way, and one of the bigger disappointments of this kit, knees are double jointed, but that's about all we're getting. Remember guys, this is a close range mobile suit. Or well, that's what it was used as in the anime, because officially this is supposed to be an assault mobile suit. Then, the feet forwards a bit, backwards a bit, side to side nicely, and they are on a hinge at the top and then a ball joint at the bottom, so fair amount of movement, and will rotate around nicely. Overall, it's not the worst articulation, but it's definitely far from being the best articulation. It's definitely what I would say below average, and for a mobile suit that really relies on close range combat, that is definitely quite a disappointment. I would have loved to have some more articulation in the knees for more action posability, and especially a double jointed elbow, considering the main shtick of this mobile suit is boxing, kind of like the Maxer from G Gundam. So for a mobile suit that's kind of made for boxing, I guess you could say that. Why not? That was really something that should have been included. On to accessories, and what you see is pretty much what you get. The one real extra accessory that we're getting is the chain mine, popularized by the awesome Kempfer. And well, I gotta say, this is a really cool accessory, but it's not that practical to pose with, because the problem is it doesn't like to stay up that well. So if you put it in the hand, the main thing you're gonna do is like have a dragging pose, or kind of try to position it in a throwing pose. Like this, you can do it kind of like having it in a waving motion. That's gonna be your best bet. But having it throwing out isn't gonna be that easy. The best way to display it, I think, is to just grab another mobile suit and kind of wrap it around it. But let's plug this out. Open up the hands, and unfortunately we only get one pair of hands, because of course this is the only extra accessory that we're getting. And then put this in here, there we go. The good news is the hands hold on to the chain mine very well. So then you gotta put this in here. Unfortunately, like I said, kind of getting this into a throwing position isn't gonna be that easy. As I said, you just gotta grab yourself a target and throw it at that thing after you removed the storage rack. That is one thing I really like about this machine. It has a very nice storage rack, and you can actually remove this. So if you still want to have the storage rack on there without the mines, you can do that. So let's put them to the side. That thing's been destroyed. And let's move on to the next things that we're getting. Side note, am I the only one who thinks this kind of looks like a turtle? Like a mine turtle or something. On to the other stuff that's on his body. We have these magnetic anchors that we have to try to peel out. There we go. And then we simply throw this away, or try not to lose it. Replace it with one of these two, and then we get one wire to use them. Now, of course, we only get the one wire, but there's nothing stopping you from cutting this thing in two. And to be honest, that seems like the best option. It's when you just have the wire like this, your magnetic anchor is going to be a bit lower. So when you cut it in half like this, that is a lot better. So I would actually recommend you to cut it in half and simply put it in there. Or you do the same thing as with the chain mine, you get a victim. On to the final weapons in his arsenal, the spike shields. Now I have some bad news about these. They're parts formers. Didn't see that one coming out, did you? So first you take it apart. Off this goes. Come on. Rip it off. Get rid of that. Come on. So this thing clips into the shoulder quite well. Off it comes. Come on. There we go. So yeah, that's one thing. Very solid connection. This moves to the side. See, it is like this, and then we bring in an extra part. Now I gotta make sure this was the right one. Yeah, that goes in there. Oh, bugger. So then that goes back there. That connects to that. Come on, there we go. Slide it in the correct position. We simply hook it back up with the shield. In it goes, and then this part technically would transform into this. Like I said, a parts former, something you wouldn't quite expect from, oh, I don't know, a knuckle shield. So this goes back in there. And suddenly, this pops out too. You put that on there. And make sure you don't wreck anything else. So you put it into the hand, slide that around, and hook it up to the arm. So the thing is, the hands don't really hold on to it. All of the force really comes from the brace that goes around the arm. There we go. And the other arm, of course, the same kind of concept. So now we have a boxer. Unfortunately, he can only bend one of his, he can only bend on one elbow joint. So those are all the accessories that he comes with. But I did mention one thing for a reason. Namely, this handle here doesn't really help anything for holding the shield. And I also said he only comes with one pair of these holding hands. So you would think that he can only use the weapons he comes with or other melee weapons. Well, the thing about these hands is that if you do not modify them, you indeed can only use them with the provided accessories. But now, if you were to cut this tab here, which I did on the right hand, and as you can see, he can hold his shields just fine. If you remove that, you can, for example, grab the bazooka here from the weapon set, and you can give your Gallus, your Schuzrum-Galluss, excuse me, the bazooka, because the Schuzrum-Galluss should be able to hold different weapons because it is an assault type mobile suit and not necessarily a close-range mobile suit. It is officially listed as an assault type, so it's kind of a bummer that he only used close-range weapons. So I can't really complain that we didn't get any actual ranged weapons because he didn't use them in the anime, but it is also official that he can use multiple weapons. Now, one final thing I want to mention about the Schuzrum-Galluss doesn't really have anything to do with the model kit, but the one thing I wonder about this thing is, where are the thrusters? The only thing I can find is this thing here on his crotch, and then perhaps these that kind of look thruster-ish, but it's like all the thrusters on this thing have been removed. That's one thing I didn't understand about the model. I even went back and watched the anime, well, the OVA, and he didn't have any thrust at any moment during his screen time. He was just kind of kicked off screen, I guess, without any reason to get back on there, because at first, because it's red, it kind of looked like a thruster from afar, but those are just pieces. The thrusters that were on the back have been removed from the normal Galluss. I think there were also some thrusters in the legs in the normal Galluss, the Galluss J, but those have been removed as well. It's like everything that was a thruster has been stripped from this mobile suit. So as an Earth, as just an Earth, a land combat mobile suit, this seems pretty good. But as a space mobile suit, I mean, this kind of makes me think of like a Zaku J-type or a Goof or something like that. It seems to have even less thrusters than those mobile suits. So yeah, just an extra tidbit. As always, the inevitable question is, do you want to buy this? Well, for 2,400 yen, I can't really recommend it. For anyone who likes the Schuzrum-Galluss, by all means go ahead and get it. But for all the other people, you might want to look somewhere else. 2,400 yen is a really hefty price for what we're getting, because everything about this machine is kind of average. It's not really super bulky, the articulation is average, and for a mobile suit to really focus on close range combat, you have the spike shields. You want him to really have some kick-ass action poses. Sure, you can connect him to an action base to extend the posability a bit, but in general, you're not really going to be able to get all the poses out of this thing you want it to make. You want to have some really good kind of kickboxing poses, really actiony, boxing, kickboxing, all those kinds of things. But he's not going to be able to pull all of them off. And then as for accessories, well, he comes with everything he should come with, but it's still not a huge arsenal. And to really seal the deal, kinda, similarly priced model kits offer more. The Dryson, 2,000 yen. Dovin Wolf, 2,200 yen. And when you put them side to side, the one that looks the cheapest is the Schuzrum-Galluss. When you would have to guess which one is the cheapest one, when you look at everything, accessories, bulk, articulation, this guy kind of comes out at the bottom. Well, he has better articulation than the Dryson, but that's more of a bulk machine rather than a real close combat machine. And once you hit the 2,000 yen mark, you gotta have something that's really selling your machine. You gotta have nice, really nice bulk. You gotta have good accessories or good articulation. And believe it or not, but the Dovin Wolf, this bulky piece of plastic, to put it like that, has better articulation than a close combat focused mobile suit. That's something really shameful for this Schuzrum-Galluss. Or for 2,000 yen, you gotta have something like a transformation. And no, the spike shields do not count for that. So, for anyone who isn't a huge fan of the Schuzrum-Galluss, look somewhere else. There are much, much better deals out there. Or even go for below 2,000. You can get even better deals there. But if you want something that's really bulky with good articulation and good accessories, the Dovin Wolf is in fact a much better deal than the Schuzrum-Galluss. The Dryson is a much better deal. A lot of model kits are a much better deal for your money than this. It would have been great if it was 2,000 yen or something amongst those lines, but not 2,400 yen. And finally, for some more size comparisons, here he is next to the standard size Gym Custom, and as you can see, he's not that much bigger than a standard size mobile suit. He is more bulky, but not nearly bulky enough to justify the cost. Then, next to the Gundam Maxter, because of course, the style of its fighting and the machine in general is kinda based on the Maxter. I'm putting these two away, and then finally, let's put him next to the Jagan and another really bulky machine, the Zaku 3, which is significantly cheaper. And once again, I would almost recommend getting this over the Schuzrum-Galluss. So then, that's all for this review, and see you guys next time.